gratitude. And there was a question that followed that, which was, is there such a thing as too much, or too many thank yous, or too much thankfulness, or too much gratitude? My own experience is that only exists when it's insincere. When someone says, oh, thank you, and you know they don't mean it. Or when someone tosses off the thank you, oh, thanks, and you go, mm-hmm. I don't know about you, but I can be very snarky and sarcastic when I'm not in the pulpit. I try not to in the pulpit, but you know I'm sarcastic. I say that because, you know, when I hold the door open for someone and the person just glides right through without any acknowledgement, or you know where I'm going with this? In my head, and sometimes in my voice, I say, you're welcome. But I really don't mean it, do I? I'm just being sarcastic because there was no acknowledgement. I don't open the door for acknowledgement, but in a way I expect acknowledgement. And when people now open the door for me, which they do now that I have white hair, I say it's the white hair, isn't it? No, I was brought up that way. Thank you. But it's happened a lot more since I let my hair go white. Some of you with white hair know this too, right? Suddenly, an old person, an elderly lady. It's like when Barry came out and asked if he could carry things in for me. And I know he didn't do it because I'm an old lady, but I've been in parking lots where people out of nowhere come over. Let me take that for you. And I'm like, oh, okay. I have to let go of what I'm happily carrying along. Gratitude is a wonderful thing. It's a really beautiful thing. It can be used to all kinds of purposes. I thought I would mention the fact that children are not born with any sense of gratitude, are they? And when they're babies, they don't turn around and say, thanks for changing my diaper. Or, gee, that was a great nap I had, thanks. No, they don't say anything. We teach children to express gratitude and to express appreciation, as when we say to them, say thank you. I still remember this with my daughter, who was very willful and totally independent because she was an only child. She would ask for something and I would say, what's the magic word? You know that phrase? Did everybody here ever say it to someone? Barry, yes. What's the magic word? And she'd say, please? That's right. I'd give it to her and she'd, oh. And then I'd say, what's the magic word? Oh, thank you? And I'd say, yes. Barney, the purple Tyrannosaurus Rex who's on television, even made a song about it to teach children the magic words. Please and thank you are the magic words. And my daughter became hypnotized by that. And because Barney said it, it was okay to say it. It wasn't a nuisance because her mother asked her to say it, please. Barney could do anything. You know, what would you do if there's a giant purple T-Rex on your TV screen? It's one of the ways she learned how to express it. We know that expressing gratitude has many benefits. Not only does it make us feel better, it also helps us become more generous. It's interesting how these two experiences run back and forth between the two. When we're feeling generous and expressing it towards someone else, we get gratitude in return, don't we? And when we're feeling gratitude ourselves, then we become more generous because, oh, someone appreciated us and said thank you. Okay, now I'm going to pass this on to you. The story I recently heard was about an experiment in which people were asked if they would give more money to their own bank account or to the food bank's account. And the majority of people in the experiment gave more money to the food bank account than to themselves. And when they were asked why, they said, because I was feeling generous, because I appreciate what it does, because I know there are people who need this more than I need it. This is a big deal in a country that revolves around the accumulation of wealth. Money is one of the driving factors in this country's history. is probably the driving factor in most civilizations' histories, and yet we only know this one from personal experience. When we are generous and express gratitude to others, we come into relationship with one another. You know, the second I say, Veronica, thank you for being here today. Look, you smiled immediately. Yes. It's amazing how those two words simplify our relationship immediately. We come into relationship, we come into community. One of my greatest loves about this congregation is how bound together people are here, about how much people are willing to care for one another. You know, when we wrote the opening words for the worship associate, I was the one who added the line, here you will be cared for, and here you will be asked to care for others. This is a relational congregation. It's the strongest thing within it, that it is relational. You know, when we are generous and express gratitude to one another, we come into a place of compassion. We experience compassion for those with less, for those with nothing. And it reminds us of how others have been generous to even more others, and it's a chain of events that goes through and through and through. It's an endless loop. Practicing one leads to an increase in the other. I would say one thing else about this, which is that expressing gratitude is a matter of how one experiences life, how you take it. My great uncle was a psychiatrist at Harvard Medical School, and he wrote a book called It's How You Take It. And I read that book one day. I found a copy of it in my parents' bookshelves, and I thought, it's so true. If you take something as an insult, you're not going to be grateful, are you? But if you look at it from a different point of view, maybe you will be. I'd like to share with you a very funny story that a colleague of mine read in church last week. One day, a woman wakes up, looks in the mirror, and sees that there are only 3 hairs on her head. And she says, I think I'll braid my hair today. And the next day, she looks in the mirror and she sees that she only has 2 hairs now on her head. And she says, I think I'll part my hair down the middle. On the 3rd day, she goes to the mirror, and now she only has 1 hair. And she says, well, I think I'll wear it in a ponytail. A few days after that, she looks in the mirror, and there's no hair there. And what does she say? She says, great! Now I don't have to fix my hair anymore. And that's an example of how you take it.
Right.
The way you look at it says a lot about your personality. It says a lot about your experience of life with yourself and with others. And I am never going to forget that story, especially because I'm losing my hair. Now, another story that was told by the same colleague of mine was a haiku. You know what haikus are. I know some of you have written them. They are very short Japanese poems written with 5 syllables in the first line, 7 syllables in the second, 5 in the third. And this is what the poet said. Tumbling down the cliff, I couldn't help but notice the cherry blossoms. Tumbling down the cliff, I couldn't help but notice the cherry blossoms. The poet could have been screaming, but the poet is expressing, noticing what's going on, noticing something beautiful in the middle of very scary experience. Wouldn't it be nice if we could get to those places ourselves when we're in the middle of scary places? You know, I went to a Friendsgiving dinner the Saturday before Thanksgiving, with a group of people from all around the world, Swedish, German, Dutch, English, me. And after the dinner, the Swedish guest, who is a good friend of mine, sent an email around to people saying what a great dinner it was and how much she'd enjoyed it. And I thought to myself, an email thank you. I don't do that. Sometimes when I'm emailing you individually, I thank you immediately. It's a lesson I learned from a very bad congregation I once served. I will start with thank you for your email or thank you for your kind words or whatever, and then I go on. But when it's a personal experience of something I just went through, I write a thank you letter. I always write the thank you letter. And in this case, I waited 2 days, and I wrote a thank you letter to the hostess, who has been a friend of mine for 30-odd years. And I said, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for the gift of being you, for inviting me to your table, to the experience we had of all that delicious food and all the stories we were able to share with one another. I didn't go on to say what I was also thinking, which is that she's one of the kindest, most generous people I know, but instead I closed it with Happy Thanksgiving. And then I didn't hear from her. I took it to her house and put it in the mailbox. And I didn't put a stamp on it or return address. I just wrote her name. And then the mail came, and I thought maybe the letter carrier took it away because it didn't have postage on it. You know, that does happen. They take mail away. But 2 days after that, I got an email from her thanking me for thanking her and thanking me for sharing with her the term Friendsgiving, which she had never heard of before, for nailing it, as she put it, for nailing it. It's Friendsgiving, yes. And then she said, I didn't deserve all that thanks.
No.
And I thought, yes, you did. I wouldn't have said it if I didn't think you did. And I only mention this because so often we toss away the compliments that people give us, their expressions of appreciation. So, oh, no, it was nothing. Remember? Have you ever said that? Oh, it was nothing. It was something. It was something. It is important to keep this in our hearts when we're expressing our relationships with each other and with people we may never know, who come by and do something unexpected for us. Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to play some special music from Willie Nelson, one of my favorite crazy-looking guys. First time I saw him on television was on PBS. I was at my parents' house in New Hampshire. Willie Nelson comes on with the braids down to here, the bandana around the head. My father said, "Who is that freak?" And I said, "Excuse me, he's a wonderful songwriter. Wait till you hear him sing." And when he heard that Willie Nelson was the one who wrote the song Crazy, I'm Crazy for Loving You,
yeah.
my father completely changed his mind about Willie Nelson. This song is It's a Wonderful World. Can you put it on, number 8?
Well, did you give me the right one?
No, oh, I didn't.